Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Danielle Zeese. I am Simply Nourished, right now living in Seoul, Korea. This is a channel all about simply nourishing you up with practical, realistic tips that don't stress you out more than you already are. A lot of what I do day to day in my nutrition practice is focused around stress management and balancing hormones. And today I wanted to share a video with you guys that kind of explains a little bit more about why this is so important, why this is so common, and of course offer you some practical solutions on how to manage your stress day to day once you understand this big picture of how the hormonal part of things can really screw with the way your body feels. I mean, I think we kind of all know that generally, but if you have an idea of how and why this is happening in a more specific way, then you can address it just a little bit better with lifestyle stuff. So that's what I want to share with you guys today. I want to talk about what is burnout. What is adrenal fatigue in the way that I say it a lot in my day-to-day use practice and in my work that I do with the Heal Your Adrenal Fatigue collaboration, which I've linked info to below. Let's just be real for a minute. Our society, we're not really that relaxed. Things are really fast moving. We have a lot of stuff that we're dealing with, and most of the leading causes of death in the world are directly related to our stress levels. Okay, so when it comes to stress, like just to state the obvious, what is stress? Stress is anything that puts pressure on something in some sort of way, to put it simply. This is Simply Nourished YouTube after all. So if you think of like the earth, right? When there is stress on these plates, what happens? Like sometimes they move, sometimes they cause earthquakes. That pressure builds up until eventually it can't anymore. It can't be withheld. That happens in our own bodies in different ways, and our body has a whole biological way that it handles that pressure. So we call that the fight or flight response. And this response has been designed to save your life so that you can run away from bears, so that you can fight whatever threat it is that you need to fight in order to survive. So it's a survival state, and when your body enters that state, a lot of physiological things happen. For instance, if you're digesting a big meal, forget about it. Your body's like, screw digestion, we gotta escape this bear. So blood starts being shunted away from your digestion to things like your limbs, so that you can use your arms to throw some badass powerful punches, and so that your legs can run faster than they've ever run before. And not to mention there's things that go on with your blood pressure and your blood sugar response, just to make all of this more possible so that you can escape this threatening situation. So the problem is that nowadays the stress and the threats that our brain perceives are not always physical stressors that we need to run away from, but the same physiological response is happening within our bodies. And part of the problem is that we're getting stuck in these states where our brain is constantly perceiving these threats, and it's affecting our physiological well-being. And so we see a huge increase in problems in the gut area. We see big issues with the way that we're able to build and keep our muscles and use sugar. And of course, how we feel. It's how our brain feels, how we feel physically, and it affects how we sleep. It affects every aspect of our life. And that might seem common sense. You might feel like, yeah, I know that, but let's take it to another level. So if you're chronically in this stressed out state, and especially for women of childbearing years, I want you to think about this. So if you're chronically in this fight or flight state, your body is not focusing as much of the energy as it could be on digestion. This whole physiological response is kind of going on all the time. When it comes to fertility, do you think that's something that your body is focused on? Do you think that's something that your body has energy for? No. And in fact, there's a whole cascade of hormonal responses that happen that actually affect your sex hormone levels over time. And this is why we see a lot of issues with low progesterone, high estrogen, high androgen hormones, all of which I have blog posts on, which I can link to below. And I'm going to be discussing more on this channel as I talk about stress and talk about hormones and offer you practical solutions to dealing with these things. But yeah, long story short, no, and your sex hormones aren't as much as a priority as the stress hormones that need to be continuously pumping, because your brain is always telling your body holy crap, there's a bear and we need to run away from this thing. And eventually we get to the point where we just can't tolerate it anymore. In my practice day to day, I call this kind of tiredness that comes from stress. I call it adrenal fatigue. So your adrenal glands are these little walnut-sized glands that sit atop your kidneys and make a lot of hormones, especially your stress hormones. And after menopause for women, they actually take over the roles of your ovaries to make sex hormones. So we can imagine why it's important to keep these glands healthy and functioning optimally, but it's important to remember that our adrenal glands are responding to what the brain is telling it to do. So there's a connection from our brain to our adrenals that we call the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And this axis, to keep it simple, essentially is just like the way your brain perceives something and then calls for hormones accordingly, depending on what the brain thinks is needed. So HPA axis dysfunction is really the technical word for adrenal fatigue when there is a disconnect there between like threats in reality and what our body feels is actually going on. So signs that you might have something going on there with that disconnect are the types of things where you just feel like you can't tolerate stress in your life the way that you used to. Maybe your sleep is affected. Maybe you wake up in the morning and you just feel like you can't get going. You're really tired. Maybe you're the type of person who's okay during the day, but at night you get this like big second wind of energy and you're up really late and then mornings are really hard. That's kind of a sign that something's going on with your hormonal rhythm and that your adrenals probably need a little bit of love and attention. And there's tons of symptoms that can arise because stress literally affects like every area of our health. So the symptoms are really vast, but to name a few of the big ones and the really common ones that I see day to day: sleep issues, mood issues, skin issues, digestive issues, joint pain, tons of inflammation in the body, having no tolerance for stress, feeling super withdrawn, feeling really unmotivated, feeling totally anxious. These are all hormonal symptoms that go along with this whole physiological cascade that goes on when we're feeling chronically stressed. Hormones freak people out. They can seem really complicated, but honestly, step back and let's just check this whole situation that's going on and then address it in a really logical way. Okay, I'm having all of these symptoms. I think that it's probably adrenal fatigue. My thyroid's influenced, like there's all this hormonal stuff going on in my body. What should I do about it? First things first, you have to check your lifestyle. This is a stress response. What is your brain reacting to that's making it feel threatened? And is it anything, or is it just like a hyper revved up state that you've been stuck in for years and years and not really noticed? I'm gonna share tons of tips with you guys in the upcoming weeks on how to really target this effectively and in the right way and in a really safe way, because there's so much information out there when it comes to supplements and all these things that we should do. All of that's noise right now. Let's start at the basics and like work from the foundations of a good lifestyle and work upwards to fix your hormones, to fix the things in your lifestyle that are keeping you wound up and keeping you stuck in this state so that everything can calm down naturally. We forget how wise and intuitive and calculated our body is. And when our body is doing something, it's doing something for a reason, often in a protective way. So before you go out to buy a supplement to try to stop a symptom that is annoying you, let's come back to the basics and let's start by addressing our lifestyle and just checking in on ourselves with like, what is threatening us? What are my biggest sources of stress? Think about like when the last time you had fun was. Think about the quality of your sleep and think about what you've been eating. So check in on these foundational, fundamental pillars of good health and evaluate how you're doing with them day to day consistently. Give yourself like a score, 1 out of 10, and see where the weak links are. And start there. Ask yourself, what can I do to clean up these areas in my lifestyle, to support my health, to support and manage my stress day to day? Because that's really what it's all about. Managing your stress is not just something for the weekend, it's something that you have to do every day, especially if you're struggling with annoying symptoms. So I wanted to start there. I hope this kind of connects a couple dots for you guys and gives you a simple place to just start when it comes to your hormones. The Heal Your Adrenal Fatigue collaboration, which I'm the co-founder and team nutritionist for, we put together this amazing 2-hour masterclass about how to recover from adrenal fatigue in 7 steps. So if you are a little bit antsy and you want all that information right now, you can sign up for the class below for free. It's totally free. It's extremely thorough, and there's a lot offered there if you do want some like more direct tips on how to deal with your hormonal issues. So I encourage you to check it out if you've been struggling with this type of stuff. And if you have any specific questions about stress, your adrenals, your hormones, health in general, feel free to post them below and I'll try to address it in an upcoming video. And you can also join my Simply Nourished community on Facebook if you just want to ask questions anytime, because I'm always in there supporting my community. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will be back next week with something new for you guys. Have an awesome week, and I'll talk to you then.